Welcome to Yoga Chats with me, your host, Greg Walsh. Today's guest is Aileen Slein, zooming in today from the wilds of West Cork. I love that area down there. My grandmother's from West Cork, so I have great, very fond memories of it. So Aileen trained as an Iyengar Yoga teacher, which is how we know each other. But Aileen has a bigger story to tell us today. This time last year, Aileen, you were finishing chemotherapy. So can you tell us your story?
So, Greg, thanks a million. It's lovely here to talk to you. Basically, in September 2019, I got diagnosed with cancer the day before my birthday, and it was a huge shock, basically. And anybody who gets diagnosed with cancer, you know, it's kind of like a whirlwind. You're just kind of move along this treadmill of amazing support that's there within the hospitals. But I had to take a little bit of a pause because my little boy was 7 at that time. So I had, I was teaching yoga classes and I needed to get my life organized. And anyway, I realized from the doctors, I had a cancer called triple negative breast cancer. And so the prognosis for that was surgery, then 6 months of chemotherapy, going to be fortnightly and weekly chemotherapy, and then it was going to be a full month of radiotherapy. So it was like basically a whole year. And I started it then in January, and I got surgery in November, and then I started the chemotherapy in January.
So surgery would have been November of 2019, was it?
2019, I had the surgery. So I had a lumpectomy and then I had a central node biopsy. So I had some of my lymphatic system taken out as well because the cancer had spread into my lymph nodes. And I had I'd found a tiny little lump quite close to my armpit, and it was like pea-sized. So that then got removed as well. And then in January, I started chemotherapy, which is just an incredible experience that you really don't know what's ahead of you. And so that continued then for 6 months. So that was pretty full on. And you get a break for a few weeks then after you finish your chemotherapy, and then you start a month of radiotherapy. And that finished in August last year. And now I have just finished my first year of being cancer free. So that's been pretty incredible.
Congratulations.
So that's been great. Thank you. Yeah. And I suppose really the thing that was amazing for me going through that whole experience, I mean, there was lots of different things, but the thing that was incredible was my yoga practice that I managed to do the whole way through that whole process, and just how incredibly supportive it was. And it really, at times when I was very unwell, I couldn't believe actually how it really, really helped me. And so basically when I'd come home from chemo, I would rest for a couple of days, and then I would start the immune boosting sequence, which and now obviously I'm a teacher, so I was able to do this stuff and I knew how to go about doing it. So there was a lot of inversions in it, but I would use equipment like feet up, chairs, stools, and a lot of blankets and things like that to do the sequence. But I used to do that from basically the 3rd day after chemo. I would start doing that immune boosting sequence, and I did that for the 4 days before I'd go back to chemo, and it was absolutely incredible, like really amazing. And then one particular time, because with chemotherapy sometimes you can just get really unwell, very sick, and I had ended up being very sick. In fact, they had thought possibly I had COVID because I had a lot of COVID symptoms, but this was like April when it was just like kicking off.
No.
So I had like a really bad cough, and then couldn't catch my breath, and I didn't have a temperature, because the thing that happens with chemo is that when your immune system is so suppressed, you can't actually create a temperature. but you'll have really low blood pressure. So I had really low blood pressure, but it didn't have a temperature, which was the one thing they were really looking for at that time with COVID. Anyway, I ended up in hospital in isolation for about 4 days, and then I got sent home, but I was really, really unwell when I got home, and I'd had a whole series of medication to try and help me, and I wasn't getting any better. And then all of a sudden I started doing a sequence, Vipariti Karani, Sadhubandha,
very supported.
Very supported, Supta Virasana. But actually what I was trying to do, what felt intuitively that I was trying to do, is I was trying to open up the whole front of my body. So that's what I started to try and do. And within about 15 or 20 minutes, I started to feel so much better. I was just like, I can't believe this has actually happened. I can't believe that this has done this for me. And I felt really grateful that I knew how to approach my yoga practice to be able to help myself during cancer. Like, I felt so grateful, because I knew that most people who are going through cancer aren't necessarily yoga teachers, and don't necessarily know how to use the support of the poses to help you through those physical times.
And that's actually something you're working on now, isn't it? You have put together a program to help people who are recovering
from cancer.
From cancer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, in fact, actually, Greg, while I was doing chemo, I made a whole series of videos. I don't know how I did it, but I'm actually in the middle of chemo, and I made a series of videos for people who are going through cancer, because it was very real to me. And I have to say, when you're going through cancer, you're very, very disempowered. You feel very disempowered. Your whole life is kind of just thrown up into the air, and it's on hospital appointments, and you're wondering, are your blood's going to be okay? Are you going to be okay? How's it going to feel this time around? It's very scary. You're always thinking in the back of your head, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? I have a small child. You're trying to keep it together for your child and your family. So it was just, there was so much going on there, and it was hugely important to me that I could go to my mat on that third day, and I could start to do practice. It felt like I was doing something to heal myself, that I was bringing something back into my own body that I knew I could do. And that was a great raft for me to be able to stay upon during a very tumultuous time. It just felt, it felt so good to be able to do that. It made me feel physically really well. Emotionally, it really helped me, and spiritually, it really helped me, have a level of equilibrium through that whole period of time. So yeah, disempowerment seems to be a big part of when you're going through cancer, and myself and 2 other women are putting together a course which would help people who are post cancer treatment. And actually COH are very interested in this, because they have seen you're very much handheld all the way through this for a whole year. And then at the end of that year, they say, okay, thanks a million, you're done now, we'll see you later. And you kind of get left at the end. And, they've got like thousands of other people that are coming in behind you. So you really are left back in your life, but in a very different place than where you were when you started. Okay. And you just you're worried. You're thinking, oh my God, am I okay? Is this going to be fine? Who do I ring? Who do I talk to? So it can be quite lonely. And, the people around you, your family and friends and everybody, are amazing, but they just want you to be well. They don't want you to think, if you say I think maybe it might come back, they don't really.
They don't want to hear those words. Yeah, I know. I'd be that person, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they're just like, no, look, you're fine. You're really well. You're better. Look, you look great. You're totally fine. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, you look great is such a. You look great. It's such a whitewash, isn't it?
They just want you, and it is, and it's not done in any, it's so
out
amazing.
of kindness, I know.
But when so this whole idea, this group is that we're bringing together people who are post-cancer, so that you can talk candidly to each other about, this is how I felt, this is how I'm doing right now. It's to create a community of support for people. It runs over 5 weeks. It uses yoga, it uses nutrition, and it uses self-compassion and mindfulness. And the whole idea is that, that somebody might find within those 3 modalities, one that maybe speaks to them, and they think, oh yeah, this really actually, I can connect with this. This is going to help me. And also just that feeling of, creating support, bringing back your own ability to have that confidence within yourself, to be able to support yourself, and to be able to, heal yourself, and to build your life back up to a new space that it's in, with everything that you've learned, because you learn a huge amount along this journey. And
you come out a different person. And I know that for you, the mindfulness, meditation, self-compassion is a very important aspect of your journey of recovery. Can you elaborate a little bit on why that is, and how relevant you feel it is for someone who is recovering from cancer?
I think it's like, it was really important for me, because I don't think we all realize how much, what a hard time we can give ourselves, and how critical we can be of ourselves, and how judgmental we can be of ourselves. And, in your normal day-to-day life, when you don't have cancer, you mightn't even notice that you're doing that to yourself in very tiny ways on a regular basis. So self-compassion is accepting the situation that you're in, being able to be kind to yourself, whatever is going on, to be able to sit with difficult emotions and feelings, and being able to care for them, and to give them the space that they need to be able to be seen and to be heard. And it's an amazing tool to be able to support yourself, and to be able to deal with the ups and the downs of cancer, chemotherapy, and everything else that goes along with it. And I don't know, well, for me, I don't know if I hadn't had that along with, my yoga practice, I'm not sure how connected it would have all become. But, with the physicality, the mind, the spirit, the emotions, everything was being tended to. And it was really important. And it's something, that I really feel I'm developing more and more so now. I think just with the insight that it gave me at that time.
It's a life skill, isn't it? Even at the best of times. But when you're going through a time, listening to you, you're talking about how you felt so disempowered, which is such a brutal word, isn't it? Or it must be such an awful feeling. But being able to lean into that mindfulness, meditation, and self-compassion at that time must have been a great assistant.
It's phenomenal. It really, really is, because I think there's so many emotions going on within you. And as I said, really, cancer can be quite it's a bit of a lonely place, in that it's really you just going through that journey, and nobody else can really comprehend how that feels. It's funny, when you get diagnosed, you kind of feel like I felt, you kind of move from this room where you're there with everybody else who's healthy without cancer, and then you move into this other room, and everybody's kind of now looking at you thinking, God, I wonder, is she going to live? So having the ability to have self-compassion to your thoughts, and to what was arising, and to your feelings, to be able to be aware of them, to be able to sit with them, to not need to run away from them, not to be distracted from them, not to have to try to change them, because you do have to temper it for other people. So to be able to sit with yourself in your own mind, and sit with those thoughts, and not have to try and change them, not try to have to make them better or worse or anything else. Just accept them, love them, be at peace with them. Yeah, massive part of the whole journey. And for afterwards, just to be, again, really not critical to yourself, not judgmental to yourself or to other people. That everybody is doing their very best, and that's different for every person. And yeah, makes life an awful lot easier.
Sure, of course. It's really great talking with you, and it really feels like you're now. I didn't speak to you when, like, I did keep abreast of your journey, but I didn't. I haven't spoken to you in a long time. But it feels like you're in a very good place now.
Yeah, no,
Can I say
really,
that?
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I've been through some of the hardest things I've ever experienced in the last 18 months. Having a small child, I'm a single parent, and having COVID, living away from all my family.
You just dropped that in. Do you want to just clarify for everyone at home? You got COVID as well.
Oh, sorry, I got COVID as well, but during the whole cancer journey, COVID started. So I had arranged with all my family that they were going to come down and help me and my friends. And so then all that had to get cancelled. And so, there was, you're here on your own, basically.
So did you have COVID during the chemo?
No, it didn't get, well, they don't know for sure because I had a false negative test, but I basically had all of the symptoms. So they thought that I had COVID, and I got lung damage from it afterwards. Like, I have lung damage now that I didn't have before I started chemo, and where it is not where I would get it from chemotherapy. It's in my right ventricle, so it's in my heart, but it's coming from my lungs, the damages. So they think, that I probably had it that period of time. I had COVID, but then I actually got it again in April of this year. I got COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that time.
Post-all treatment.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And how was that? Were you okay?
Totally fine. Yeah, really good. Okay. Yeah, and felt really well afterwards. Yeah, I lasted the 10 days. I had like fatigue and nausea, but I didn't have any cough or anything at all like that. So I was really lucky. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, brilliant. That's a relief. I guess if it was a second time occurrence, perhaps you'd built up a certain level. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, if there's someone listening today who has been diagnosed with cancer, what would you say to them, Aileen?
I would say take your time. This is not, I don't mean like, wait for 10 years, but I mean, you don't need to do something tomorrow. You can do something next week. I think sit still for a little period of time and just gather yourself. Just really connect into how you are, and become aware of what you're about to embark on, and get those supports around you. The things like, if you have a yoga practice, use that. Use whatever strengths that you lean on now. Use them while you're doing your chemo, or you're doing your radiotherapy, or you're going through surgery, and self-compassion, elements like this. But I think probably my most important thing, I think, would be was just pause. When you get diagnosed, it feels very hard to do this because everybody wants you to move straight away. They want you to be in there the next day. They want you to have treatment the next day. And sometimes I don't think you've even noticed that, you got diagnosed and you've already had your surgery. So I think, if you can take a couple of days, if it feels okay to do that, I think it was the best thing I did. It gave me a chance to gather myself, to think about what was ahead of me, and to try and put in place anything that I could that was going to help me. Mm-hmm. So, and that I think it's a very scary journey. It can be very scary, but you do learn an awful lot. I've learned an awful lot, and there is amazing people there to help and support you through it. The hospital is phenomenal. Like, it's an unbelievable system. Once you're in it, you are just handheld the whole way through, and they're really, really amazing people. But I think just pause and try and connect into yourself as much as possible, and try and hear what your own self is, what that voice is giving you advice on, if it's possible. I know sometimes that's hard to do, but yeah, I think
It's
the
something that's
pause.
always good to do, but just from listening to your story, I can see how it would definitely have given you that moment between hearing your diagnosis and then moving into action.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, I think it is. It's really, like, I know one of my other yoga students, actually so odd. I got diagnosed, and she got diagnosed about 3 days later. And with her cancer, it was estrogen-based breast cancer. But like within, I think about 2 days, she had had surgery and she was out the other side, which is amazing that that can happen so quickly. But I know for her, she was kind of like, I'm actually just still catching up on what's gone on. So it's not for everybody to do, and that's totally fine. You do what's right for you. You've listened to yourself, and yourself has said, no, I want to do this instantly. Then that's what you go and do. For me, it was, I needed to pause, and I needed to take time just to gather myself. So whatever your decision is, the support that is there is amazing, and there is brilliant tools that can help you come through it, and that you can use on the other side of it as well, which is hugely beneficial. Yeah,
it really does sound that you paused to gather yourself. You sound very gathered. You sound very like you lived every moment of it, and you did your very best, and it sounded like you went through it very bravely. And many people, goodness, I don't know how I would manage. I'd be so tempted to just lie down. And it sounds like you just kept getting back up, getting on your yoga mat, being mindful, using the practices that we've done for many years. But you said, use your yoga practice. And that's what it's for, I think, because yoga is a practice. It's not a means, it's not an end in itself. It's there to be used at times like this. And it really sounds like you made the most of it. You squeezed
because it was
it
was the only thing I had at certain times. It was the only thing that I had. And to be honest with you, Greg, I had some like really dark days, like everybody's going to. I wasn't, completely infallible, but it's you have some really, like a lot of, physically you're sick, mentally you feel totally overwhelmed, and that was part of my journey. But I was also very lucky that I had my yoga practice, and I had meditation, self-compassion, and I had some really amazing teachers of meditation and self-compassion who helped me through it, and that was hugely beneficial, and incredibly grateful for that. So yeah, there's dark moments, but it was to have tools to be able to help you through those dark moments. I think that's for anything that, we're all going through dark moments now. We've been going through dark moments for the last year, trying to figure out what's happening. So everybody's been challenged. Nobody's getting away without a challenge. And I think we're having to dig deep and figure out, okay, how is it that I can help myself? And I was fortunate that I'd had these practices that I could use. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, well, Aileen, you're an inspiration. I genuinely, mean that. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And so on behalf of everyone at home, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to have these yoga chats with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
Pleasure. And that's all for now, folks. I'm Greg Walsh. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you can join us for more yoga chats again soon.